Is at the Dry Bar. All the way from the Beverly Hillbillies. No, not quite. All the way from a little town called Chickamauga, Georgia. If you've ever heard of it, say yeehaw. Yeah. Now, some of y'all just like to participate, I can tell. The rest of y'all need to invest in the internet and start Googling, because it's a great place. Great place to visit and a great place to be from. And I'm very happy to represent Chickamauga, Northwest Georgia, and showing up in Utah tonight. And you guys have been wonderful. It's been my first Dry Bar experience, and everybody's been great. I've had so much fun. I just started doing stand-up a little over a year ago. Thank you. Now, I was a pastor for over 25 plus years. So I've preached like 4,000 sermons in that time. So the public speaking part I've got down. And writing sermons and writing comedy material are really similar to me. That's probably why I'm not preaching any longer, because all my sermons had more comedy in them than they had, spiritual significance. But I had a good time, and the folks did. But I'm going to tell you, being new at this, the hardest part about doing stand-up for me is the standing. Man, I am wore out already. I am hoping and praying that sit-down comedy will get popular. If it catches on, sign me up. I said, could they please stand and let me sit? I was going to bring a lazy boy recliner in here. Kick that thing back, have me a few beverages, a little popcorn. I'd have done a 3-hour show for you people. They said that's not going to happen, because at some point with all that water, you'll have to go to the restroom. I said, I got news for you. Depends. You'll have to Google that one. But I love what I'm doing. I love doing comedy. It's a great time. It's a lot of fun. And being new, I'm meeting all these wonderful people. And I've learned something a long time ago. If you connect with people, laughter's a medicine. And I'm doing my best to bring you a full prescription tonight. And everybody here is. So we'll have a good time. But being from the South, I know you probably didn't think that when I started talking. But I am. And then being a minister for most of my adult life, I became a Christian and a minister at the age of 21. So when I got old enough to start drinking and hanging out with women that did, I quit. I started going to church, and I became a pastor, and that was the life I lived, and I enjoyed it very much. But growing up in that small town, I got great values from my parents. I'm a son of a postman. My father worked for the United States Postal Service. My mother worked for the district attorney in my hometown. So let me tell you what that means. I got away with nothing. Not a thing. Because in the city of Chickamauga, there's only 2 city routes. My father worked one for 15 years. He worked the other for 18. The one for 15 years, he walked 12.3 miles a day, 5 days a week. Come on, somebody. That's hard work. Now, you're probably thinking, Big Rich, how you remember that? Because I heard it every day of my childhood. Anything that had to be done around the house, he'd say, boy, go help your mother. Why do I have to do it? Son, I walked 12.3 miles today. What did you do? Mom would come home with the groceries from the store. Hey, get out there and get those groceries. Why me? Oh, yeah, 12.3 miles. But it's funny. My father, my Uncle Harold, and their 2 best friends, a guy named Fuzz and Dicey, and that was their names. They would walk 36 holes of golf every other weekend, and not a word was said about 12.3 miles. See, in life, it's all about perspective. But I am an only child, and I know for you folks from Utah, this is like a unicorn sighting right here. Being an only child. But my mama said, when you have the best, why have any more? Yeah. My daddy said, don't kid yourself, boy. We're scared to death. Have another one after raising you. I love my mother. But being an only child, it's only good 2 days out of the year. Christmas and your birthday. Rest of the time, it's not very good, and here's why. When you're an only child and anything goes wrong at the house, guess who gets the punishment? Little Richie right here. I figured out I took several whippings from my father for things that my father did. I remember one time I said, Daddy, I promise you, I promise I did not do that. He goes, I know you didn't. I did it. I'm like, well, why am I getting the spanking? I don't want your mama to know I did it. Then he would give me this logic that I'm sure you've heard before. You probably did something that we didn't catch, so let's just call it even. Then every once in a while he would say this, and I actually use this on my 3 children. I hate to tell you, son, this hurts me. This hurts me. This hurts me. But like my middle child said, not in the same place, Daddy, not in the same place. Being an only child at your birthday was wonderful. The best birthday present I ever got in my life. You got to remember, I grew up in the 1900s. So it was a bicycle, a Schwinn. I got a Schwinn 10-speed. Royal blue, sparkling. Man, that thing would fly. Hey, y'all, some of y'all, I can tell we're Huffy people. It's okay. Huffy bikes are good. They were dependable. They had 1 speed. They were rugged. They were great for playing Evel Knievel in the neighborhood and jumping the smaller siblings when you built a ramp. That's what you do in Chickamauga. So that's what we did. We built a ramp. I asked my buddy, I said, hey, can I borrow your Huffy? I'm going to go for a new Mill Village record right here. I laid out 5 children. All younger siblings of other parents, because I was an only. I backed up. I got that Huffy going. I did pretty well till I hit the 4th one. Get it off him, popped the 5th one. They started screaming and crying. Mothers started coming off the front porches, looking around. Richie, what did you do? I jumped on my 10-speed bicycle and I got out of there. You're glad to have a Schwinn every once in a while. And I did set a new record there. I got that 10-speed in 2.8 seconds. Because when you see somebody's mama coming after you for pulling an Evel Knievel, that's not a good day. That's not a good day. But being an only child at Christmas is like winning the Price is Right sweepstakes. Man, it was good living. Remember, 1900s, no Walmart, no Amazon. Here's what I had. I had the JCPenney catalog. Come on, somebody. And I had the Sears catalog. My father hated those catalogs. Why? 12.3 miles. You haul those things all over Chickamauga, you wouldn't like them either. But Christmas was great. I loved it. I loved being an only child. I had a great family, great experience. And then lo and behold, I remember as a little boy learning to read. And learning to read is one of the greatest privileges you'll ever have in your life. And I'm so thankful that I was hooked on phonics. Because that's how I learned. And those SRA books back in the 1900s, you know, when the teacher didn't want to teach anymore, go read an SRA book. You'd get in there and you'd go through and see what color you get to. I was trying to get to the gold, baby. I was trying to go for the gold and having a big time. But when kids learn how to read, I mean, you guys know, if you have small children, if you've got children under the age of 10, would you clap your hands? Cool. Thank y'all for finding a babysitter and coming out. We appreciate it. If you're grandparents, would you clap your hands? Because you guys know. Now, if you're both, I'm going to have a prayer line for you right up here. We're going to pray for you. Because you need some sanity. That would be insane. But learning to read is awesome. And kids read what they see. And when you live in Chickamauga, Georgia, there ain't a lot to see. We drove through town. I was in the back seat of that 1977 Pontiac Grand Prix that my daddy owned. Man, that was a nice car. Back then, you didn't have seat belts. You could put the kids up in the top, and they could get a pillow and a blanket and ride in the back glass. But I was a husky boy. I had to quit doing that at 3. I had to ride on the hump. Nothing worse than riding on the hump in the back seat of that car. I'm riding on that hump, and I got my head up there looking around, and I'm reading signs. I'm sounding them out. I saw one, and I said, Western Auto. That's showing how old I am right there. My mama said, Richie, that's good reading. Keep going. That's awesome. I looked for another one, and I got that one. Bank of Chickamauga. Hey, there's some people in here 50 years old. You couldn't have done that if I'd sent you down to town. That's a tough one. I sounded it out. My daddy said, man, that's good reading. I'm proud of you, son. When your daddy says he's proud, what do? You keep going. He goes, keep reading. I said, okay, grocery store. I'm sounding it out. Piggly Wiggly. Man, I was on fire. I was on fire. But here's the problem. That's the only stores we had in town. They couldn't afford signs. So I started looking around at the one red light, trying to decide what I was going to read. I saw a van parked over there. Now, back in the 1900s, that was just a van. Today, that'd be a Predator van, but it was just a van. And it had a bumper sticker on it. So I looked at it, and I sounded it out. And little Richie read it out loud. And it said this, "Honk if you're horny." My mother immediately bowed her head and began to pray right there in the passenger seat of the car. Head bowed, the cross symbol, Father, God, Spirit, everybody, covering all the bases. My father's mustache was quivering in the mirror. Now, back then, it was just a mustache. Now, today, it'd be a porn stash. Or you might call it a Burt Reynolds model. You know Burt Reynolds, he's the guy, Smokey and the Bandit. For you younger children, he'd be the old man in The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler. But my father had that mustache. I saw it quivering. I said, oh my gosh, my dad's laughing. So what did I do? I got louder. And I personalized it. And I said, hey, honk if you're horny, Daddy. My mother came out of prayer. She looked at my father and said, Lynn, do something. So my dad blew the horn twice right in the middle of Chickamauga. High school got better for me because I realized in high school that my gift of comedy and seeking popularity impressed the girls more than my GPA. And I struggled in my GPA, but I didn't struggle in the comedy part. So lo and behold, I just focused more on it. And unfortunately, when I graduated high school, and I did graduate, thankfully, from Gordon Lee. Thank you so much. She's like, I'm so impressed. I got out of those catalogs. I started studying a little bit. But I went to Gordon Lee High School in Chickamauga, Georgia. I was the class of '86. Come on, somebody. Good to be from the 1980s. And my senior class had 106 students in it. My academic standings was number 72. It's not that funny, come on. How do you remember that, Big Rich? Well, I'll tell you why. Because my principal put it on the front door of the school. The whole academic rankings for the class of '86. You do that today, they're going to call CNN, televise it. The popo would show up down there in Chickamauga and say, sir, you got to take that down. Some people would start a GoFundMe page for the kids at the bottom of the list for their pain and suffering. Back then, they said, just suck it up and get smarter. My daddy looked at that list, and my father was a man of faith. So he started at valedictorian, number 1. And he was looking to see what his only begotten son was ranked over at Gordon Lee. He went down the list, flipped the page, got down there in the meat of page 2, Richmond D. Brock, number 72. That night at dinner, because we ate dinner as a family back in the 1900s. And lo and behold, we're sitting there eating dinner. My father said the blessing. And when he finished with amen, here's what he said. Sue, that was my mother's name. Sue, guess what your boys ranked over at the high school academically? Now, my mother knew it wasn't good because I was her boy. If it'd been good, it'd been our son, my son. And plus, she raised me, so she knew, I wasn't paying attention like I should. And listen, my mother was like Joel Osteen before there ever was one. She was sweet, she was kind, she was always smiling, positive. She looked at my father and said, Lynn, I don't know, what is it? Sue, brace yourself. 72. They were as quiet as y'all are right now. And my sweet mama said, well, out of how many? 106. I said the first thing that popped in my head. I said, hey, it ain't that bad. It's about half. I'll give the lower tier people a moment to catch that joke. My daddy said, son, that's why you're 72 right there. Because 72 is not even close to half of 106. So then I did what most teenagers do. I deflected it on somebody else. I said, well, my best friends are 104 and 105. My dad said, that's your other problem. You hang around idiots, too. About that time, I heard Van Halen, Panama, blasting in my driveway. Guess who it was? 104 and 105. Coming to pick up the brains of the operation number 72. We were going going to ride up to Chattanooga, Tennessee to do a little studying of anatomy at the Playlake Club. My daddy says, tell them boys to come up here to the porch. Now, my dad taught those boys in Sunday school. He coached them in Little League. He delivered their mail for 18 years. The last thing he wanted to do on his free time was deal with them two knuckleheads. But he decided to become a life coach long before there was such a term. He said, y'all boys come up here to the porch. My friend that was driving had a 1984 little red Vet, a Chevette. You'll have to Google it, son. But he went to the Western Auto and got Corvette stickers and put all over it. And then he took a can of spray paint and sprayed flames across the side to impress the ladies. He said, Mr. Brock, if I turn her off, I don't know if I can crank her back up. And if I pull into your driveway, it's going to pour oil all over the place. My dad said, 105, just stay in the car. He knew which one was the bigger idiot out of the two just from that conversation. Now, I will say this, 104 is doing well today. He's married. He's got 2 wonderful children. He's got a great job and a great home right there in good old Chickamauga, Georgia. Y'all give 104 a hand. He did well. Now, 105 we hadn't seen since 1987. We're not sure where he's at right now. But growing up in that town taught me a lot of values, taught me a lot of things. And I had a wonderful family. And I'm a proud dad of 3 sons myself. I was a pastor for 25 plus years, was married. My mom and dad were married 55 years to each other before they left this world and went to heaven. They had a wonderful marriage, a wonderful life. Now, give them a hand, very much so. Wonderful people, salt of the earth. I myself was married 25 plus years. But I'm on the variety pack. I had to have 2 ladies to make that 25 years. I'm just saying. And going through that divorce, when I decided I was going to date again, I hadn't been on a first date since the 1900s. And I thought, how am I going to do this? So like any red-blooded American man with, 40-something with $29.95 in his checking account, I joined the world of online dating. Here came Big Rich online looking around. And I'm just kind of looking around, seeing people, and all of a sudden I got a message. And I looked at the picture and I said, that's a nice looking lady. She's in my age bracket. She owns her own business. She had a hair salon. So she knows she's got good hair. I said, I might get a free haircut out of it one day. Who knows? So I'm looking. But I didn't know anything. Nothing. I didn't know what catfish meant. I didn't know what filtered pictures were. Only filtered I knew was like on a cigarette. I didn't know, you could filter a picture. I didn't know all women looked like porcelain dolls that were on these social online dating sites. I didn't know. And we're talking, and we had so much in common. Everything I said, she goes, me too, yes, me. I'm like, this is amazing. We have so much in common. She goes, we need to meet. I said, I just don't know. I haven't been on a first date in 28 years. She goes, come on. And I reluctantly gave in to meeting for coffee. Sounds safe, doesn't it? Yeah. I show up early because I'm the son of a postman. And I'm waiting there at the Starbucks there in Northwest Georgia. And I'm sure in Utah, y'all do the same things we do. We people watch when we're early. And I'm just watching people. And I see this car barrel in, a van, barrel into the Starbucks parking lot. Pulled right in, and I thought, well, that's an old van. You don't see any of those anymore. It wasn't the one that had that bumper sticker on it, by the way. I did check. And I thought, that's interesting. And it was an older lady. And when she opened the door, cigarette smoke flew out of it. It looked like Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And I'm watching this lady, and I'm thinking, man, this is interesting. Just watching people, waiting on my date. She's looking for gum because she'd been smoking. Now, ladies, if you want to freshen your breath, maybe a little Dentyne. Wrigley's. Not this woman. She went full-blown Hubba Bubba. She broke out the big league chew. She started chewing on that bubble gum like a cow on cud at North Georgia. Just. wearing it out. And then, ladies, when she got done with it, not a napkin, not a tissue, like a princess. Old school. Right there on the ground. First thing I thought was, I better not step in that on my way out on my date. And I watched her walk in. And she took her pocketbook and she marched into that Starbucks like she owned the place. She was on a grandma on a mission. I didn't know I was the mission. I'm going to do her voice for you one time because I got to do another show tomorrow. And I'm afraid I'll wake up in a cold sweat crying like I did for 3 months after I met this woman. But she walked up to my table at Starbucks and this is what she said. "Hey, doll, you been waiting long?" My voice went back to a 12-year-old boy at puberty. I said, "Who, me?" I sounded like Shaggy off the Scooby-Doo. She said, "Yeah, doll." And I started talking to anybody that listened in the heavens or above. I was like, I gotta get out of here. "What did you do, Big Rich?" I said, "Would you like some coffee?" Because I'm nice. I'm very nice. Ladies, I'm very nice. I know 2 women that don't like me. What's the odds I married both of them? I mean, I'm telling you. Go figure. Normally, I only do one ex-wife joke at a time so I can say it's the other one. Whew, God, I had to edit that. And she says, "You been waiting on, doll?" I said, "Who, me?" "No." And then she looked at me and she said, "Yeah, I'd like some coffee." "How do you like it?" She goes, "I like my coffee like I like my men, strong, with a little sugar." I said, "Well, I don't go to the gym." I don't have a membership at the gym. So I got her coffee. I came back to the table. I set it down. And then she slid her chair all the way around to my side. And her chair was up against my chair. And I hadn't been on a date since the 1900s. I was scared to death. And she put her hand on my leg, my upper thigh. And she said this, "If you'll take me to dinner tonight, I'll make you breakfast in the morning." I said the first thing that came to mind. I said, "I don't eat breakfast." I got news for you. I'm Big Rich. I love me some breakfast. Come on. I said, "I got to get out of here." She says, "What's wrong, doll? Is it my appearance?" I just looked at her and she goes, "I got to tell you something." I said, "Is your name Steve from Chattanooga?" She goes, "Those pictures aren't really me." No kidding. They're my younger sister. 2 questions. Number 1, how much younger? And number 2, what's she doing tonight? She said 14 years. I was number 72 out of 106, but my math was on fire that night. She said she was 46 years old. I added the 14. I did the math. I said, "Oh my goodness, you're 60? Well, I just had a birthday, doll. Add 1 more. Now listen, I know y'all love the Cougars around here, but enough's enough. I was a young man. She was 61 years old. I said, "I'm sorry, I got to go home. I'm not ready for this. Would you at least walk me to the car?" I said, "Lady, I'm running to my car. But if it's on the way to yours, I'll wave at you if you can keep up." And I learned my lesson that night. I got in the car and I said, "I am getting off that social online dating. That's not for me." And I made a commitment. And I stuck to it for 3.5 weeks. Hey, I'm Big Rich Brock. Thank you guys so much for your time. And thank you for being in Dry Bar Comedy.